Hey there! Thanks for listening to the Infinite Podcast, where we want to challenge the people of God to see the realities of their context and reflect on and reformulate concepts such as mission, missionary, mission field, holistic mission, and more. In this episode, we feature a conversation with Reverend Plaisance M'Bara. Reverend M'Bara is a PhD candidate at the Akrofi-Christaller Institute of Theology, Mission, and Culture in Ghana. And his areas of study are the theology of reconciliation and African Christianity. The themes that Reverend M'Bara talks about touch upon the themes that we discussed in our last Stop Bediako Forum on peacebuilding and conflict transformation from a lens of post-colonialism and indigenous Christianity. In this podcast, Reverend M'Bara shares broad strokes of his research and process on the field, and then Tori Greaves, as interviewer, follows with more particular questions. Listen and learn with us about the contribution of the concept of Zokwezo towards a sustainable peace building in the Central African Republic, or CAR.
The topic of my research is entitled Contribution of the Concept of Zokwezo towards a peace building, a sustainable peace building in Central African Republic, an analysis from an African Christian perspective. So the research aims to find out whether the indigenous concept of Zokwezo could make a contribution to peace building in the post-conflict context in CAR. In other words, it aims to explore whether CAR, like other African countries in a post-conflict context, could explore and use indigenous or traditional concepts and or practices as alternatives to the search for peace building. And here I have a quote from Boutros Ghali, who defines peace building as the process by which an achieved peace is placed on durable foundations and which prevents violent conflict from recurring by dealing with the underlying economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian problem responsible for the conflict. End quote. Indeed, CAR is rich in traditions, culture, and indigenous practices that exhibit the value of humanism, the respect of personhood, dignity, equality, and so on. The current research, which is part of my doctoral thesis in progress, takes into account the indigenous concepts and practices such as Zokwezo, Sore, and Mbuka, three elements of culture or tradition in CAR used in the past to settle disputes, to appease violent tensions, and to bring or maintain peace. This describes the worldview of the CAR people. John Beatty asserts that African traditional concepts could shed light on understanding and implementing peace in our times. Indeed, Zokwezo is a concept, which means a human being is a person. In the Gbaya traditional society, which is an ethnic group in CAR, Sore was a shrub which leaves were used to appease disputes or conflict between two people or two groups of people, while Mbuka was a ritual act of blood pact in which two members or two clans or ethnic groups swallowed each other's blood in order to end violence after a tribal war or to maintain peace. The rite aimed also to forge kinship and commercial relationships. The question now is to know which one of these three elements of culture can effectively contribute to initiating a genuine peace building in CAR. The result of my investigation, of the investigations I carried out so far in Bangui, Busangwa, and Bua, have shown that the concept of Zokwezo could help initiate peace building in CAR. The rite of Sore, the tree of peace, because Sore has been seen as a tree of peace in the CAR culture. and Mbuka, the practice of blood brotherhood, proved to be insufficient to initiate peace building in the context of CAR. Of those I interviewed so far, among 100 people, 50 people said they were not familiar with the practice of Sore, the tree of peace. 50 other people said they were not familiar with Mbuka, the practice of blood covenants. But 100 people said they have some knowledge or understanding of the concept of Zokwedzo. So it comes out from my investigations, the following statistic. Sorry, 50%, Mbuka 50%, and Zokwedzo 100%. It must therefore be concluded that the concept of Zokwedzo, has a wide understanding in CAR. Zokwedzo is a concept formulated by Barthélemy Boganda, the founding father of CAR, in response to colonial oppression against the people of Ubangui-Chari. Ubangui-Chari was the colonial name of CAR. During the colonial period, Boganda condemned the oppression and human rights violation of the indigenous people. By doing so, he became the key political figure who pioneered the promotion of human dignity. Zokwedzo suggests that human beings are equal. They deserve respect, caring, sharing, love, and equal treatments. Boganda protested against numerous exactions committed by the Garde Indigène, which was the native guards, such as forced labors that the colonized people were submitted to, even women and children. Zokwedzo, as the motto of his policy, his concern was to work for the emancipation of the francophone countries of Central Africa. He said, libérer l'Afrique et les Africains de la servitude et de la misère, telle est ma raison d'être et le sens de mon existence. I translate it. Set Africa and the Africans free from bondage and misery is the work in which I am involved and the reason of my existence. End quote. Boganda's concept has similarities with other African concepts, which derives from African wisdom and tradition. His concern was to set African people free from injustice and marginalization, and to promote their social and economic well-being based on the respect of human dignity and the value of the person. Zokwedzo became, therefore, Boganda's political slogan. It means that whether someone is a white, a black, a rich, or a poor, regardless of his or her social status, he or she is a human being. During my investigations, I asked the people what Zokwedzo means according to them. Many of my informants argued that it means that all human beings are equal. Some said, when we make an incision on the body of a white person and another incision on the body of a black person, the same color of red blood will flow from both. There will not be a difference between the color of the blood of the white and the black. Today, many people criticize politicians in CAR and CAR elites for neglecting the legacy of Boganda. That means they neglect the concept of Zokwedzo, promoting or implementing Zokwedzo. For example, one of my informants laments that Boganda's successors failed to implement the policy of Zokwedzo. He asserts, I quote, Boganda was a great leader that we had lost with his ideology. All the leaders who followed him have never inherited from his ideology nor worked according to his vision. That could be the reason why the country cannot be developed. Today, when someone looks for a job or a promotion in a public office, if he or she does not have a relative in that office, he or she will not or will rarely get the job or the position. From the aforementioned, it is worth saying that Zokwedzo could be viewed as an African moral concept. Indeed, in the traditional African societies, indigenous concepts were significant in communicating social, political, and cultural ideals. While in the Western context, individual generally is identified by his or her self-existence. In the African pre-Christian worldview, moral concept define the significance of the individual's personhood and the relationships with others. For example, in South Africa, the concept of Ubuntu originally expressed a traditional African moral concept. It revealed the significance of humanity, posing that a human being cannot be stand alone. In CAR, the concept of Zokwedzo could also give rise to a moral principle. Achieving this ideal of Zokwedzo meant a lot for Buganda. That was the reason why he criticized the oppression of his fellow people, but also demonstrated his respect for the human dignity, even for his political opponents. He had given himself a double mission, a political mission which aimed at liberating and emancipating the Blacks of Central African sub-region, and a spiritual one which aimed at evangelizing the Ubangian, which were the people of Ubangi Shari. Other informants defined the concept of Zokwedzo in the light of the scriptures. According to them, it suggests that every human being is created in the image of God. One may assume that Buganda's conception of Zokwedzo also derived from the understanding of the story of creation, since before he got involved in politics, Buganda was the first Catholic priest of CAR. Henceforth, he laid down the foundation for a theology of peace building in CAR. Mansango has this to say when he has said that South Africans have lost the value of Ubuntu during the fight for liberation against apartheid, especially the concept of the image and likeness of God, which kept people respecting each other. This posits that Ubuntu emphasized the respect of human beings created in the image and likeness of God. Charles Villavicencio highlights that all people are created in the image of God so as to enjoy equal human worth. Indeed, the issue of man created in the image of God was one of the focal points in the theology of Desmond Tutu during apartheid. Tutu points out that created in the image of God, people have to enjoy harmony, peace, justice, oneness, fellowship, and righteousness. These values are obviously those of the kingdom. Since the concept of Zokwedzo emphasizes human dignity and the right for people to enjoy the fullness of life, it could be seen as promoting the value of the kingdom. Therefore, the role Christianity has to play in this concept is great. By committing itself to its prophetic mission, Christianity has to prove that Zokwedzo exhibits the values of the kingdom. And as a kingdom value, it underpins equality, justice, forgiveness, reconciliation, truth, caring for others, tolerance, love, and respect for others. In short, Zokwedzo has the potential to contribute to peace building in CAR post-conflict context, since it is an African moral concept and a kingdom value. Henceforth, faith actors should understand how to work at capturing people's view on Zokwedzo as a traditional moral concept and a kingdom value to prevent violence to reach chaotic proportions. In the transitional justice, to achieve genuine peace building, a Christian Zokwedzo could be possible as the Rwandan Catholics did with Christian Gacaca in Rwanda, combining the traditional approach and the Christian gospel. In this sense, the concept of Zokwedzo could be used as a catalyst for peace building. The research I carried out so far has been done with much difficulties. The great challenge I faced is that of the ongoing armed conflicts. Since 2013, as you know, much of the CAR regions have been invaded by armed rebels. To this day, the fight for the pacification or setting free the country are going on. These fights are carried out by the armed forces supported by the Russian and Rwandan partner troops. However, tension, sporadic attacks, and kidnapping are still going on in some places. All these affected my fieldwork and delayed the progress of my research. Due to the political crisis, the research assistant who was supposed to help me carry out the fieldwork could not join me in going to the fieldwork. So I therefore worked with Yinbori Esperance and Cyprien as research assistants respectively in Busangwa and Bois. This is what I have for now and what I have done so far. So it's what I can say. And then thank you for listening. So I'm listening to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend M'Bara, for sharing and for preparing a little bit to keep us up to date about how things are looking. I wanted to just take a step back and let you share a little bit more about who you are. Could you just state your name and maybe a little bit about yourself, where you're from, who your family is, that sort of thing. That way we get a little bit about you. Sure.
Yeah, I'm Reverend Pastor M'Bara Plaisance. I am a Central African from origin. I'm a pastor. I'm married with Rosalind M'Bara. So I'm a PhD candidate at Akrofi-Christaller Institute of Theology, Mission, and Culture in Akropong in Ghana. So currently I'm carrying out my PhD research, the fieldwork in a CR in Bangui now. So this is what I can say about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend M'Bara. It's been incredible to hear a little bit about the journey that you're on in your research. And I know that the armed conflict has been a major challenge in the midst of trying to get your field work done. Can you just share a little bit more about what it's like, the conflict, what it's like to live in the midst of that for most people? I don't think a lot of people outside of Central African Republic know much about it. And so if you can just share a little bit more, that would be really helpful.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, international media try to report about the conflict of CAR and then picturing it as an interreligious conflict or a war between Christians and Muslims. But this is not true. It's not true because in the past, in the very recent past, Christians and Muslims have been living together. They have, they got married together. They live together. They had children together. They share a lot, in terms of relationships, in terms of activities, and so on. So the conflict is more political, fostered by politicians. And then what I can say also is that there is a probability that, foreign countries, support for one way or another, the conflict. They support the politicians on the ground to get to a position or something, or get what they want. So it's more political than religious or something. And then they have some factors, economic factors, because CR is a country that is very rich in terms of wealth, in terms of natural resources. So now with the configuration of the world, geostrategic, geopolitical system of the world, these materials are coveted by some superpowers, so their economic angle of the conflict, or factors, things that aggravate or foster the conflict. But in one way is to say that the conflict is not a religious one, putting Christians against Muslims, but the manipulation, those who did not understand, coming from the Muslims community or the Christian communities who did not understand, have been manipulated, to take a knife, to take guns, to take something against their neighbor, against their friend, those with whom they have been living together. They hatred, took place, and so on. So these some of the situation. But what I can say also is now many people now they understand. I went to Bua, one of the locality of CR. His name is Bua. I went there. I even went into a Muslim majority, the area where Muslims are majority. I even had conversation, interviewed with the local leaders, Muslim, the imam, Muslim in these localities. I also held a focus group with them, and we discussed. So when you got them, when you get them, you see people, Muslim and Christians together. This is another issue. Is not what the reports, the media said, and so it's what I can say now.
That's really, really interesting and helpful, Reverend M'Bara. Do you think, since you've been exploring the concept of Zokweso, do you think that that concept can be helpful even in the current crisis, and how would you go about using that concept to bring peace in the midst of this armed conflict?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question, because Zokweso, as I said, is a concept which is is fundamental. Is talk about the respect, the dignity of a human being, the dignity of a human being, the respect of the dignity of a human being. So, in a context of conflict or peace building, to build peace, we need such understanding, implementation of Zokweso, because doctor, you will understand that in CR, many people complain. When I was doing my research, some people complain when you get somewhere, you get somewhere to get a job, to find a job. if you are not from my ethnic group, I will not employ you. So ethnicism is a problem. And we cannot build peace when people do not, put aside ethnicism to consider the other, that is in the front as a human being, as have a capacity, the ability to do the work if I employ the person. That is an example I can give. So there are issues of clanism, ethnicism, regionalism. These are things that fragilize peace. It fragilizes peace. So we need to go back to that's why I say it's a moral concept. It's African moral concept, and at the same time is express Zokwedzo express a kingdom value. So they are both elements. So when we get in our culture, we have things that are there, fundamental equality. We need equality. Zokwedzo promotes equality. So if there is no equality, people will be frustrated. They will be in the frustration. They will manifest their frustration, their anger. They are ready to do something that is wrong, or to take revenge. When they are not not been their human being is not considered, and so on. So many people complain about what politicians are doing in neglecting the legacy of Buganda, which is Zokwedzo, that he left to us. So I think I'm convinced that if we dig, when we dig, and we explore a bit, when we put scholars together to explore this concept, our concept, it's like South African Ubuntu. It will bring something, a great change in CR for a peace building. Yeah.
Going back to Zokwedzo, I am I'm really intrigued. I don't think I would love for you to clarify a little bit, because I may have missed this. Was it created by Buganda, or was it did it originate long before then? Can you just share a little bit about?
Yes, the word has been coined by Buganda. It has been coined by Buganda, but I'm sure that is something that he drew from our pre-African worldview and so on. The way our African ancestors, they were living in the past, in the solidarity, in a community and so on, respecting each other and so on in the village and so on. But the word initially has been coined by that man, and then it was in a political arena, because it's also, as I said, Buganda was a priest. Firstly, he was a priest, the first Catholic priest of CR, before being involved in the politics. So he had the double heads, I may say, to understand both from the culture and from the scripture. Yeah.
Wonderful. And now I'd love to just hear a little bit more about how it's been for you during the research process. Maybe could you share what's one key learning that you've come upon in this process of doing this research in your home context, and the things that you've encountered?
Yeah. I was amazed. I was amazed to know that my country has so much riches from the cultural riches, from the tradition that have not been used or implemented. For example, I talk about Mbuka, but unfortunately is a practice of a tradition from a particular ethnic groups. So when you leave that from the eastern part of CR, most of people from that originated from this part of the CR, they know that practice. the practice of blood, blood pact, blood covenant. So it means that when you and I are in Mbuka, we swallow, we make a small incision on the body, and your blood coming out, mine coming out. We exchange blood, or we swallow, using cassava, or using some bread or something. We take it, and you swallow my blood, and I swallow yours. So what amazed me was that I got across an article written by a Catholic priest from Senegal. He went back. I even wanted to meet him, but he went back home. So that man wrote the article about the practice of Mbuka, and saying that 3 out of 4 people in CAR, it means the majority of ethnic groups in CAR, had been in a blood covenant in the past, in the tradition. So now, when you broke down, when you break down, when you violate the rule of that covenant, that blood covenant, you go through misfortune, you and your family, and so on. Misfortune will befall on you, and so on. So I came to understand that during the conflict, many people who hurt or harmed one another, the neighbor, who killed or burned down the house of his friend or his neighbor, because that person is a Muslim, or because that person is from another ethnic group. But in the past, your ancestor and my ancestors were in the blood pact. So doing this today, we are violating the Mbuka, the blood covenant. We are violating, because your grandparents or your ancestors and mine, swallowed each other blood in the past. So we should respect, we should consider this until today. So one of the problems is that because of the Francophone, policy, or the French policy in the Francophone Africa, most of the Francophone African countries, set aside the culture and the tradition. This is why I'm working in my theology, to try to understand and to bring back some of these concepts and practices. So they set aside even during the colonial period. So it makes that our context is different from the Western Africa or Southern Africa and so on. Most of these people, they still keep their culture and tradition, going through festivals, doing some rituals and so. But in CR, we don't have these. So the younger generation, they are lost. They are lost. We lost our. Today we lost our roots, our cultural roots, our traditional roots. So this is a big challenge. But I try to help, even from the practice of Mbuka, that we have something that is very rich in my country. Yeah.
Wow, that is so interesting. So if I can just reiterate what you've shared, it sounds like both because of the value of ancestry, of our heritage, and the blood covenant that they entered into, that should be the basis for peace between different ethnic groups, different regional groups. But today, because people have lost some of that history and devalued the blood covenant, they enter into the conflict and they begin to harm one another, and they're violating what has been what was set up back before to create an environment of peace. That's very, very interesting. And and had you known about Mbuka before you started your research, or did you encounter that when you were out on the field?
No, I didn't. This is the first time. I didn't. This I didn't. So these are new. yeah, this new for me. Even the name I didn't know. So when I was doing interviews, someone told me that I just read an article written by Evans Pritchard. He was an anthropologist, an anthropologist and from England, I think. He wrote on blood. He said blood brotherhood, just that expression. So it's from that article that I came to understand. Oh, there is an ethnic group, that used to do that practice. And then when I went through it, through my interviews and so on, someone told me about, but the native name is Buka. In the Sangu language is Mbuka. So even the practice I didn't know, and the native name. So it's new for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic to be learning and encountering new things within your own culture, and then to be able to share that. It's beautiful. And you also talked about Sore, and have you had as much of a chance to also explore that? I'd love to hear a little bit more about how Sore works, the peace tree, right?
Yes, yeah. Yes, but because I try to picture all my research, my PhD research, the work I'm doing on in a general. So these are the three elements I'm analyzing. So Sore is also a right or a practice of putting a conflict or violence to an end. Yeah, and then that's one too. Is in the culture of the Gbaya people, and the Gbaya are a cluster of ethnic groups. So there are many subgroups of the Gbaya, different, and depending on the area or the region and so on. And there are some nuances, there's a slight change in the dialects. So, but most of the time they understand more or less, the dialects. So these are the Gbaya people. Most of them are in the western part of the country, living in the western part of the country. So I've been able to go to the two localities where Gbaya originated, which are Bosangwa and Bua. They are Gbaya there. So this practice is that when two people are in tension, they are in dispute or in conflict, or they are fighting, or a war between two villages or two groups or people, a third person, to stop the violence, to end the violence. The person can cut that tree, and just to throw between the two group or the two person, and automatically they will stop fighting, because they believe that Sore has a power, to do many things, to harm or to bless. So just when they see Sore, they stop fighting. So that's one. But Sore, according to many I interviewed, Sore did a lot in the past. But today, some say that today, because of the expansion of Christianity, of the gospel in the country, such practices are no longer being done in the country and so on. These are problems, but we are talking about the past a little bit. And for me, which lessons can we draw from these traditional practices, and to see the connection with the gospel, or theologically, to make the connection and so on. Yeah, this is the research I'm conducting now. Yeah.
It's also fascinating and unfortunate to see how much that the westernizing of the culture, the individualizing, and also in many ways becoming more and more Christian, has then moved those practices into the past, where they no longer hold relevance when they are so powerful and important for the people. Well, we're getting close to the hour, so I just have a couple more quick questions for you, and thank you so much for your time. But what's next for you in the research process, and how can we be praying for you during that?
Okay, thank you. Now I'm working on transcribing and translating into English all the information I got. So it's a very huge task, huge, because I'm a francophone guy. So I use Sango, which is a national language, and French, and then English now. So whether my interviews, whether the data is in French or in English or in Sango, I have to transcribe or to translate both into English. So the works that I've been doing now, because all my research is qualitative research. So I interviewed everyone with my recorder. You can say it. My recorder is here. So I have to interview every person, get all what the person understand or knows, and so on. This the challenge is what I'm doing now. This is the process what I'm doing now. Yeah.
My last question is just in terms of not only in CAR, but in Africa and in other parts of the world. Is there one thing from your research that you feel that people who are engaging in the processes of peace building should know and should learn from Zokweso?
Okay. Yeah. What I can say that Zokweso is a very powerful concept, very powerful, because it talks about the inner identity of person, if I can say, the dignity of human being and so on. So I can see something like Ubuntu, as I like Ubuntu, the South African Ubuntu. I like it so much. There is such a similarity, a little bit. So this is why I'm killing myself, to make that concept known from the theological perspective, because this concept is not explored at all. Not explored at all, not at all. And this work at such a level is, I can say, the very first one, because the concept is totally neglected, as I say, by most of the elites, the scholars and so on. So this is what I'm trying to do. But when I'll complete my work, people will enjoy it. They'll enjoy reading it. To know what Zokweso means, what Zokweso is. What I can say.
Well, thank you, Reverend M'Bara. It's wonderful to learn from you, to hear from you today, and I look forward to seeing your final work once you're able to finish. And I know that it will be something that's very treasured and important for others around the world. So we'll look forward to learning more from you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is a pleasure to have you online and to see you, because I've been chatting, but today is a very great day for me. I'm very pleased. I'm very delighted. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the platform you prefer. If you think this could be helpful for someone you know, please share it with them. The best compliment we can receive is a referral to someone else. See you next time!